You guys watch sports ball?
Oh, yeah.
Who's winning the tourney this year?
Oh, Nebraska.
So everyone except Dusty. Do you guys watch basketball? Who's winning the tourney this year?
I do not. I go to the the parties or whatever for the thing, but I don't follow. I mean, I'll watch it once it's on, but I don't follow it enough to like pick things. But I like watching the games once it's on. That's fun to do.
You got to watch
How
basketball.
about you?
I know.
Being a Hawkeye fan, I mean, go Big Ten.
Yeah.
I think I put Purdue and Indiana playing each other just because that's
because
just
of
what I'm
loyalty
dreaming
or
for
what?
and
Yeah.
hoping happens. So
I love
Purdue winning it all
the theories that come out before March Madness, and then it hits in tournament, and there's going to be that 15 seed that knocks off.
Oh yeah, that's just
a number one or something, and then everything's just shot to that point.
You
That's why I
strategically
love
try
it.
to pick those?
No,
No,
because it's always going to be the one that you're not.
I got lucky one time out of the last 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was the year that I got second place.
If you pick all number ones, you're going to get a couple. So.
But so is everybody else. Then you don't have that one potential way to take yourself one notch up above everybody else.
I'm not looking to win, I guess. I'm just in it for the fun.
There
I
you
like
go.
donating my money to a good cause, like someone else's wallet, and then shame them into buying me a drink when we're out or something. Like, hey, you want all that money? The least you can do is buy a beer. No.
I'm a firm believer in second place is the first loser. So.
Oh yeah, if you ain't first, you're last. Ricky Bobby. No, but I think Purdue's taking it this year.
Me too.
I mean, 7'9", you don't have to even be good at basketball, right? I mean,
Stretch your
really.
arm up.
wasn't that like Georgia or Florida? What was that one little school for Florida that made it? It was a number of years
Florida
ago,
Atlantic.
Florida, like was that?
They made it this
one
year.
little
again,
one.
I
Did they?
think. They've been
like-
consistently good since then,
Yeah.
kind of.
Or IUPUI? That's what I'm going for. Are they in the tournament?
Yeah, good call.
It's Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. No, they're not in the tournament this year. Oh,
I guess can't
I guess not.
say I follow.
Hey, maybe NAIA. So Western Iowa Tech's getting sports programs now. They're
Yes, they
esports. They
are.
got big into esports.
Okay.
They're getting volleyball. I thought it was basketball even
Yeah,
too.
basketball.
That they're going to get.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
So
cool.
that's kind of cool for
Tip of the
for
iceberg
that.
for him.
Yeah, next thing you know, they're in NAIA, and it's
Are you
just
getting
go from
paid
there.
as an adjunct instructor to like
Obviously,
plug
he's double
them?
dipping real hard right now.
No, if I was, I'd be plugging my fire program. Sure. So, if anybody's interested in a job in the fire service and wants to get credits in a degree, the Western Iowa Tech happens to have a fire program.
What's WIT's motto?
That's got to be worth $1,000
Is
right
that bad
there.
of me to not? Don't they have a?
I don't know what the motto. They're the Comets.
I
And they
know
just
that.
redid the logo. That's so yeah. But,
We'll get back to you on that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right.
So should we officially start now?
I think we're going to start this thing off. 6th episode of Before the Tones Drop podcast, and we have a generational guy here, Derek Trobaugh. So you want to go into that right away on what that means to you and kind of how that got started and where you're at now in the process and where you're at with in the line of succession here?
Sure, yeah. Obviously, it's a huge sense of pride that I've had. My grandpa actually started, I believe it was November 16th, 1950. So pushing in on 73 years ago. Started on the department. He did, I believe it was if I remember right, 28 years on the department.
Wow.
My dad, he actually started before my grandpa retired, so wasn't really a lapse there. And then I started, I think I had 4 or 5 years on with Dad for a little while. So yeah, it's kind of a cool piece of history that we're able
that's pretty
to
cool.
have, and obviously a huge sense of pride that I have in the department and being able to carry on that family lineage. So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's a huge deal in the fire service in general, but we've had a few, of those right here in Sioux City. We got one sitting next to us here, Dusty Johnson as well. And you goons go back a while anyway.
Oh, yeah, we
Just
do.
besides the fire
Yeah.
department, you want to go into some of that maybe before the fire world here?
I'll let you start, Dusty.
All right. So there were 4 of us, class of 1998, East High School. So there's Derek Trobaugh, Adam Wright, Johnny Walker, and myself. And the 4 of us in high school, we got along pretty good, always had fun. And, yeah, Derek and I used to hang out especially when you had that long flowing hair too. Which
Whoa.
I should get the yearbook out.
Please.
And We might have to have a picture of
Yeah,
you.
you don't want to see pictures
It's
of
pretty
that one.
awesome.
I wonder if Baker's already got pictures uploaded.
I hope not.
They're probably playing. They're playing right
We'll
now.
make this happen.
please.
Yeah. I'm surprised my wife picked me.
I think we could all say that about ourselves.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Derek and I, we hung out, and let's see, we did a little bit of wrestling together, and then
What about school sports?
Whoa.
And then what else did we do, Derek?
Well, we like to ride on the moped together. You know?
Back then it wasn't odd. It was two dudes riding around Morningside, like Glen Avenue, South Cleveland, on a moped. Nothing wrong.
So like
Just
on
boys being boys.
It was.
Was that like dodgeball when White when he jumps on the back of the? Is that was like I can picture you guys just like driving around.
It
town
was.
Like that,
It was.
I had
Moped.
wheels, man.
Yeah.
I had wheels.
Oh, yeah.
It was a spree.
It was red.
You know?
Red
Oh,
spree.
Maxed out at 25 miles an hour until the day that, it was actually when Lakeport Road was under construction, and I decided to take a shortcut because I lived on Cherrywood. Decided to take a shortcut to get to East High that day, I should say. And going down the road, and all of a sudden my muffler fell off. That baby went like 40 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. You left it
Nice.
off, right?
It lasted for 2 weeks until it blew up. Guess they're not made to do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Dang it.
man.
But yeah, so back then I was a scrawny little dude. I wrestled 103 pounds as a freshman. Actually weighed like 98 pounds. At that time, I think Dusty was probably pushing 160.
Yeah, wrestled at 160
Yeah.
for a little while.
160. So you can about imagine how that looked
Yeah.
with my little 103-pound body driving Dusty at 160 around Morningside. But hey, we got where we needed to go.
We did.
You know,
And
we
it
had a
was
good
fun.
time.
Yeah.
ran
It
back
didn't
and
look
forth.
weird at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. We had a
So
blast.
Were you guys friends because you just kind of palled around being in school, or is like the connection because your dad's from the fire department, and then that's how you kind of connected in high school, or were you guys just friends in high school just anyways?
I think a little bit of both, really.
Yeah. I know, like, my dad and his dad were friends, obviously from the department. And, him and I used to joke around about it all the time. We'd always say that someday we were going to be on the department together. Lo and behold, it actually happened. It was, obviously.
And now you're sitting across each other from on a podcast.
Yeah,
Stuff, so.
another cool story.
Yeah,
right.
I
Who
can't
would've
tell you
thought?
how many times we talked about it. Joked around about it.
Quite a few
and-
times.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that it actually worked out for us.
That's
So,
crazy.
That is cool.
another cool little story.
Mm-hmm. And then, and you said, and Johnny Walker, or you guys, you talk about, and you guys live by each other kind of now, even too. But how much of a, the time we've spent working together, and how good of friends you and Johnny were and stuff back in the day too. So that is kind of cool.
Quite
for
the
you
cast
guys
of
to-
characters.
Yeah, we all
to-
wrestled
yeah.
together, so I mean
Yeah.
it was
Cool.
pretty close. Adam, I don't know if he's coordinated enough to wrestle, so he was never involved in that part. We kind of brought him on later on, but yeah, it was a fun time.
It was.
Yeah.
No, that is
So you're interested in the fire department right from the get-go, though. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm sitting next to me too, but both you guys. Is that just because of your dads, or
Yeah.
was it appealing besides that?
I mean, of course, it's appealing. Besides that, I mean, it's obviously you take a lot of pride in what they do. The fact that you're able to serve to a higher calling or a higher purpose in life. Being able to help people out, and you take a lot of pride in the fact that your dad's on the department. I know that I always did. For me, obviously, which we'll talk about later, but the burn camp side of it and all that was a huge sense of pride always for me. I'd say he was really good at kind of encouraging me to look at other things as well. He never really pressured me at all to get on the department. It was something that, as life went on, I'm like, man, I love that job. That's so cool.
Awesome.
It's so cool what he does. And I always looked up to him for that. And, then eventually had the opportunity to do it myself. So that's when I kind of decided to start the testing process. And I think I was a little later. You started
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
So I started in 2006. So my journey was a little bit slower, but I still came
You
around.
want to talk about that journey then? Before kind of how you got to the department? Like, let's go way back and say, like, what's your first memory of, like, being around the firehouse? Like, you remember going as a kid with
I
your dad and
definitely
stuff?
do.
And
I
visiting
definitely
him?
do. Yeah, I remember obviously coming to the stations. My sister and I, we'd come through, and Dad would come on his days off, and we would go, and number one place we'd always want to go is the commissary, because every station's got the commissary. It's what pays for like the paper and the everything in the station. So, everyone's got all the candy and everything else. So you'd walk in, and all the other firefighters that would work with Dad are trying to shove as much candy into the kids as possible. So that
don't worry, we'll cover it. You want some candy?
I don't think
want a soda.
Want a Mountain Dew for the road?
Yeah, exactly. So let's get the
hasn't
kids
changed
hopped
at
up,
all
so
either.
that way
It's
Dad's got to
the same
suffer.
thing.
Same thing.
It'll never change either.
No.
A cycle of suffering for the parents of that kid.
Yep.
That's it, though.
But
Yeah.
the kids are having a great time.
Right. And then also, going to Station 3 was always a big piece of childhood, because they had the pole. So it always like, Dad, let's go to Station 3 today, if we didn't have anything going on, and just watch him slide through the pole. And back then they had to get through it fast enough that the thing didn't swing back and smack him in the head. But, sometimes maybe on a day that maybe we were in arguments or something, you were kind of hoping that thing would come back and hit him. But yeah, it was always fun to go to the station and talk to the guys and go through seeing what he does day to day. So
When I came on, and Dusty, when we came on in 2002, your dad was at Fours at the old station before we built the new one, and for a long time. And you being assigned to Station 4, that's kind of cool. Do you know where was your grandpa? Where was your grandpa at?
So Grandpa, I know he was kind of floated around also from station to station. I think he spent a lot of his career at Station 8 actually, but then
Now, was he Riverside Boulevard Station 8 or Westness of the Riverside Boulevard 8s?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Riverside Boulevard 8s.
Yeah.
And then later on in his career, he got transferred. I think it was pretty close to retirement. He got transferred to Station 4 at 1414 Nebraska.
Nice.
Yep. So another kind of little cool piece
Yeah,
of history is
so
my goal is to eventually retire out of force as
there.
well.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
4. Well, yeah, because so I wonder, did your dad then let's see, I can't remember what year we closed the Nebraska 4s and moved down to the Boulevard. So was there a time when your dad would have floated then to 1414 in Nebraska or spent any time there at all before we shut that, and then he was assigned to Old 4s, which you would have spent time floating to Old 4s before, and then of course assigned now to new 4s. But that is kind of cool that just that part of your family lineage or whatever has been associated with 4s at some point, that you all have that overlap. I mean, that's a pretty cool
that's
deal.
pretty neat.
Yeah, 3 generations at 3 different generations of 4s. So I don't know when they plan on closing this 4s. I don't know if it'll be before maybe the next process, but I feel like it's a new enough station.
Yeah,
that's probably going to be around for quite a while.
Well, old 4s was there for 50 years.
Yeah.
We ran out of that. So, and I mean, this station, we're in starting year, what is it? We opened that in 2012. So, I mean, it's, if it's going to be here at 50 years, I think you'll be long gone before, the
Right.
new one. I think all of us will be at that point, but
I don't know. Devin still may be on.
No.
young pup.
Yep.
We just painted Station 3. That's already 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care how it looks. I'm going to be here the next time we paint it in 20 years. Why do I care? I'll just fix it then.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it then.
Yeah, well, I
Push it
miss
off
this
for me.
piece of trim right here. I'll get it the next time around, right?
I'll leave
Yeah.
it for next time. No.
You should have popped open some ceiling tiles and put your initials or something like that. Up
there
there.
might
Anyway,
be a
we're
few
moving on from
Easter
that. Allegedly.
Next
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're at Station 3 hanging out. We talked a little bit about high school. I mean, even being around it when you were that young, that's just always the focus? You personally, that's what you wanted to do?
I mean, it was always in the back of my mind, I would say. Something I always thought was cool. I wouldn't say, obviously as a little kid, I always remember like drawing pictures saying I was always going to be a firefighter, but I mean, you're not really
A lot of
all that
kids do,
serious,
right?
It's being a kid at that point, but I would say I was probably late into my teenage years when I really decided, this is definitely what I want. I was probably, I would say 19, 20 years old is when I'm like, man, this is what I really want to do the rest of my life. So that's when that process really started moving forward, and I went and got my EMT first, and then went and got my intermediate so I could do my IV skills. And at that time, I was working at the blood bank.
Oh, perfect.
Doing that kind
Lot
of
of
stuff.
practice.
So, a lot of practice doing IVs, right? So did that, and then just decided I was going to start testing for the department. So
Take your first test when you're that age then, 19?
yeah,
20?
I took my first test. Let's see, I would have been 20. I think 23 or 24 when I took my first test. I did a couple years on the volunteer side, just kind of getting my feet wet a little bit. And then I ended up taking my first test and didn't get hired off that first list. So I ended up going through the process a second time and got hired off that second list. And
would you say that was beneficial for you at that time, though?
Definitely.
Not making that first list or getting hired the first time?
Yep. For me, I don't know that I was necessarily prepared. I kind of took a little bit different path. I wasn't necessarily the greatest of kids. I tended to make a few mistakes here and there, maybe a few too many. Probably gave my mom and dad a few extra gray hairs. But, thankfully for me, I actually met my wife, and then we ended up having Dominic. And then, of course, at that point, you're thinking, man, I need to really do something with my life. I got kids now that I got to take care of, and that's when I decided, okay, if I'm gonna do something, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I better start, putting my nose to the grindstone and actually working towards it. So that's kind of when that process started. So
nice.
Yeah.
Then that's when it started. Buckle down, time to go.
Yeah.
So that's like good for people trying to get on now, So a lot of people on the job haven't made it that first go around.
Right.
And you just keep trying, right? I mean, if it's really what you want to do, you just got to keep trying. And it's probably a little different now, lists are getting smaller, but I mean, still, if you don't make it on that first go, you can't stop. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you just got to keep going, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean,
whether you want to be here or just in general, I know guys that, we work with that tested a dozen different departments or whatever, or even this list, you like I said, second list you came off of, like George Glass was on, maybe it was his like George's third list or whatever when he finally got hired. George was just dedicated, wanted to be here, tested. So there's a lot of guys, it's almost like if you make the list your first time and get hired off of the first list you make it, you're almost in a minority. It's like it almost seems like it takes sometimes a couple lists to make it. So I would think that's, for anybody, don't get discouraged just because you didn't get hired off that list. Just
and like
everybody, there's
yourself,
a lot of people that have been through that.
Like you said, it wasn't the right timing for your life,
right?
But look how it's worked out so far, right?
Right.
You've done all right.
Yeah, for me, it definitely made me thankful for all those tough times, because once I got it, it was like, man, I'm on cloud nine. This is my world is coming together. This life is going to be perfect. I got the perfect job, I got the perfect wife, starting the perfect family, quote unquote. But all that is good when it actually starts working out for you. I also was testing up in Sioux Falls at the same time, and it going through that process, and they were at that time, you didn't have to have your EMT, I think. So I mean, I was testing with like 300-400 people, and
that's intimidating.
Yeah,
isn't
it is.
Walking into that room with that many people,
and actually made it onto their list. And then the whole time I'm thinking, man, what if I get hired? This is a great job, but this is not, I want to be in Sioux City. This is where I want to be. For me, the family dynamics and everything else played a huge part in it. That's part of my pride as far as being on the department. So I really wanted to be here. And I'm thinking, man, I hope I don't get, you want to get hired, of course, but I'm thinking, man, I hope I don't get hired there, because if I get hired there, it's going to put me into a decision. Do I keep testing, or what am I going to do from here? So yeah, it was awesome when I actually got hired here off this list.
You never forget that phone call.
Oh, no.
Was it Patty that gave you a call?
Yes, it was Patty.
Yeah.
Patty gave me the call, and she said, I'm just curious if you're interested. And I think I was so excited, and at the same time, I know I was crying just because I wear my heart on my sleeve anyway. So I'm crying, telling her, yes, I want this, and I was so excited about getting the job. And at that time, it was like 3 months before that, my wife and I found out we were having our second child. So I was already in a panic how I was going to afford to have a second kid anyway, So, I mean, everything was working out at the right time. Somebody's got a plan for me, and it was working out.
So quite literally, like when guys say you hit the lottery getting this job, you literally hit the lottery.
Oh, I did.
Right?
I did. And still to today. I mean, it's been 17 years on the job, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't look forward to coming to work.
Exactly.
Working with besides a few people here, working with people like you guys, working with just the people that we get to interact with day to day, and just knowing what you're able to do day to day. You're able to make a difference, and you have the ability to to make a difference every day that you come to work. So that's huge.
Cool. Anytime we work together, I know if we do, because we were assigned together for a long time. I kind of probably taught him everything he knows about driving stuff. But if we on a trade or overtime or whatever, at least a dozen times he tells me he hates me per shift, or that he's going to stab me or something. At least, but I know deep down he really loves me.
That's love. So too. That's terms of endearment in the fire service.
For me, you always got to work.
Guts, you puke.
I don't know how many times we had an officer like come into the kitchen or something, stop, and then turn around and walk right back out, because him and I were going on about something.
Rich and I
don't want to know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Like just turn around and just
we'd be in our deep discussions.
Theological debates, just fundamental levels of things, and Richard. Right back the other way, and just be like,
Devin, that sounds like you and I.
It really does. Honestly, every work, I can't imagine what some of these newer people think when there's all the respect in the world with the captain aspect. Like, right. I'll tell someone, why don't you go die or something like that? But then I go, but not you, Captain. Yeah. Respectfully, not you. But everyone else around
everybody else.
Get the heck out of here.
Yep.
So like with my captain, DJ, I have Captain Wynn. Wynn. A lot of times, my big thing with him is I add the no offenses all the time. So I'll be like,
true.
Yeah. As long as I add no offense, then it's
cancels
okay.
everything out.
Yeah.
It's fact.
So then finally he started telling me that my no offenses are untimely. I guess I should lead with a no offense before I say whatever it is that's offensive.
Yeah.
No
offense. Like this is not directed at you specifically, but it is, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think he watches these, but it is meant to be offensive when I say it.
For all intents and purposes, I mean every word I say, but I'm
and then
kidding.
I say no offense because then I feel like then I don't get in trouble.
You know what gets Trobaugh's goat more than anything?
Oh, please.
I think he knows.
I don't know where you're gonna go, but I'm really worried.
What's like when you can't get something to work? What's my number one thing that I tell you?
What's that?
I said when you can't get something to work, what's the number one thing when I come in and I go like this and I tell you what's?
Oh yeah, operator error.
Yes.
That's like him saying he's here and I'm down here.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I just want to. I don't want to talk about what I want to do.
That's one of the dozen times where he tells me he hates me, right?
I like that. Well, since we're on the subject, what other things does Derek not like, or what are some other pet peeves?
Well, I will say, like, so Trobaugh, and this is, so I know Tro from when he was on the job Tro and working and stuff. So it's high school and everything, and the troublemaker Tro and all that. I was not familiar with, so I'm familiar with this guy that is like, this solid dude, and this guy that like treats everybody nice. He says, wears his heart on his sleeve, takes so much pride in this job. So something that a pet peeve of his, and he's even called me out on it and stuff sometimes, is that if you treat somebody like they're less than, or make a comment or something like that, he really takes that personally offensive. Like if you offend somebody, he does not like that, and he will call you out on it, and he will be upset about it and stuff. So that's one thing. Like dude's, he's a pretty solid guy. That that's a pet peeve of his. I don't know. I think just him and I, like, again, it's we're like this, but at the same time oil and water. So I know he knows some of the things that get me, and then there's things that I know that will
another snake guy.
All right.
I might have chased him with one time.
I might have
I'm a snake.
That'll teach you to mess with me.
Consider me a snake.
No, he spent a lot of time floating when I was out at Sevens when I was driving for Teely, and he came in. He would float a lot. Tro actually like kind of really fit in the station. He did some cool things out there with the Team 7. You did that logo on the cabinet and stuff, and some cool stuff. But we were out inspecting one day, and Brian, Captain Teely's not a fan of snakes either. But we were out and we were by animal control, and we were it's hydrants. We weren't inspecting, we were doing hydrants. Yeah. And so we're getting off the rig to go do one, and Tro goes over to get the thing because he's always grabbing the stuff, getting off the rig quick, and there's a dead bull snake 16 feet long by this hydrant. And this girth like this, like huge, right? And he's like, hey, this, and I didn't see it. Brian, he said something. Brian, like, and so Brian's jumping behind me, like, because he hates it, and I'm like, what's going on? What, and Troll's like picking this thing up and going like, and I said, Troll, I swear to God, I said, I will punch you in the face. I won't even feel bad. And Brian's like, I don't see anything. Like, oh yeah, I was like flat out, I was gonna knock him out.
I will massacre you.
Yeah.
So then we know all the shifts shenanigans that go on between calls and between training and all that. So the one day I walk into the station and Phil decides he's playing these stupid mind games with me, and I go in to get my job shirt, and I'm like, man, I cannot find my job shirt anywhere. And I'm looking around. I finally text him. I'm like, I know it was you. Where did you put my job shirt? And he said, look up. We're in the middle of the apparatus bay. It's 30 feet in the air. I look up. My job shirt is hanging on a clothes hanger 30 feet up in the air.
That is impressive.
Yep. So, you want to know
notch,
how?
Phil.
So I told him, I said, I don't play mind games.
Nope.
I don't want to get into this, but I'm going to tell you right now, you ever do anything like that again, there will be 3 or 4 boa constrictors in your Jeep when you go out in the morning. And he said, okay, I will never mess with you.
We're done.
We're good.
Okay.
That's like one of the biggest mistakes you can do on this job is to let someone or a group of people know that you're afraid of something.
Right.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will use that to our advantage until the end of our career.
Spiders.
And
Oh,
if you're gonna conduct some shenanigans, you have to be able to take as much as you can.
Absolutely.
You got to be
100%.
expected because I fully expect but yeah, that was we found that job shirt and I was like, oh, this is not gonna first thought is like, oh, we'll just hang it back up, and I went, if it was anybody else's, I would have just hung it on the racket, called it a day. But I was
get one shot.
Yep, I was like, no, this is way too good because he left it laying around, and Troll's very much about, hey, okay, don't leave your stuff laying around, and he did.
I was eating my own words.
Yep.
So a little advice to especially our younger guys and probies, it never stops.
Yeah.
You think you're done when you're off probation?
Right.
It's just starting. It's only begun.
I know. Another 30 years of it.
So,
Yeah.
all right, you get hired in 2006.
Okay, we're back there. Okay.
Did you? Well, I just want to bring it
No,
back
you're good.
because I love talking about you and your family's story a little bit. But did you get crossover with your dad then?
Yeah,
On the job,
I did.
Like working with him?
Yeah, I
or-
had like probably 4 years that I actually worked with him. Never on the same shift. A couple of my cool memories that I have with doing that. Actually, one of them I was doing ride time at Western Iowa Tech, and I wasn't on the job yet, but Dad was, and I was getting to do an IV on a patient that my dad was working on as well. So we showed up at the same call, and it was kind of like that first aha moment of like, wow, this could actually happen. I could like be doing the same job as my dad at the same exact time. That's like the coolest thing ever, So I remember having that happen. And then fast forward a few years later, I ended up getting on the job. I was already floating. And for some reason, I time traded. They're usually pretty good about trying to keep people on different shifts, which makes total sense to me. And I ended up doing a time trade. So I was on the same shift, but not on the same rig as him. And anyway, my dad texted me. We had a garage fire that the car was in the garage, and we ended up having to make entry. And, of course, full of smoke. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And we had to go in, and we're getting this car out. And I got a text message from my dad like probably an hour after the call, and he's like, I don't know if you can work on my shift like that. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, just I don't know why, but I was worried about where you were at the whole time. And I'm like, wow,
Protective dad.
Protective dad thing just doesn't go away,
No,
I mean, that
absolutely.
happens your whole life. So, yeah, those are a couple of the cool memories that I remember from actually getting to interact with him on calls. But for the most part, I would say with us being on different shifts, we didn't really work together a whole lot. So
That's cool that there was that crossover.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
we
a
did.
lot of people can say, one, my dad's on the job with me, and two, oh, we're at the same fire or something.
Right.
That's crazy. That
that
just
was cool.
happened. That
Now,
worked
did you
out.
get to, like, when he was on Engine 4, did you get to show up at shift change when he was there too?
Yes.
All
yeah,
right. How did
yeah.
that all go?
Yeah, it was always, he was pretty good at like downplaying it, acting like I was just any other person, I know that was a big thing for him, was to make sure that I was able to make my own and have my own career, my own start and all that kind of stuff. So he was pretty good at just nonchalant, like, hey, how's it going, and act me just like any other changeover, and kind of went on with our days. So Yeah, it went good.
Your dad's one of the first people outside of just testing. But when I finally got hired and moved down here, because my start date actually, like, I had my move date because that was my original start date, and then the start date actually got pushed back a couple weeks, so I decided to move anyways. But your dad was actually one of the first people I met. They were out inspecting country club apartments where I was living at the time and stuff. And yeah, my first interaction with the Sioux City Fire Rescue person out doing their job and stuff is old man Tro and stuff, and here he is, on a tailboard, old engine Ford, the open cab back and stuff, with mustache in all its glory. He had a cigar sitting out in the sun, just hanging out on the tailboard, waiting for the guys when they're doing inspecting and stuff. And and he had a lot of good things to say and stuff, and just kind of welcome to the job and all that, and then just the That's things, cool. He always kind of talked pretty positive about the job and stuff. So yeah, it was one of the first I took that from him. I learned a lot of things floating to Old Fords and working with him, just driving and just the job in general. The deferred comp stuff, pumping into that. He was a big guy about that and telling you, hey, do that early. But the best life hack I ever learned from that guy is the pizza thing. He would leftover pizza. It's the best life hack. Get it off the cardboard. If you order pizza, the Firehouse had pizza. His biggest thing, instead of just taking the pizza box and throwing it in the fridge, which is 99% anybody does, he's like, no, you have to get it off the cardboard because the cardboard sucks all the moisture, and then you got that super dried out pizza.
Wow.
Get it off the cardboard.
Right on.
Learned something new.
It makes a huge difference.
Food. He's always been a foodie.
Did your dad drive Engine 4?
Yeah, he did.
Yes.
That's an engineer move in itself, right there. Worrying about the food. I can attest to that driving truck 3 now. The other day we're painting, and me and Brandon, I got Brandon DeRocher. Sorry, Brandon DeRocher and I. Thank you. Wow, I knew I was going to do it.
He's watching.
We talked about this before the podcast. Grammar. Sorry, Mr. Edumacator. We're sitting. We got to a point where we could take a break. He and I are both leaning against the sink eating while everyone else is painting. And I looked at him. I'm like, God, what a baller engineer move this is right here. Just watching everyone else do something while we're eating. It's like we got to be ready to drive. We got to have our wits about us. The blood sugar's got to be up.
Yeah, so you can think.
Got to know where we're going. So this is just taking the engineer break.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, speaking about in cooks too, your dad was a fabulous cook.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He would lose there was always he would use every single dish in the Firehouse to cook something, but oh man, the stuff that he would cook, it was just awesome.
The apple fell very far from the tree. Yeah, that's not a quality.
Ask you about that.
Yeah, not a quality that I have.
Okay,
Mr. Hamburger Helper.
That's
or what?
That's
not
a pet
quite
peeve.
that, but close.
That's one of his biggest pet peeves is if dinner's. He gets hangry like none other. If dinner is late, oh man.
So 6:01, you're
as long as you schedule a dinner time and say dinner's at 6. Dinner's at 6, but if it goes 6:30, 6,
are we on my schedule or Phil's schedule? Because to him, dinner is anywhere between 6 and 9:30 at night. I mean, that's quite a gap. You know what I mean? I mean, okay, 5, 5:30, 6, maybe 6:30, 7 if there's a couple calls. Anything later than that, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I always tell him, just get a snack. You'll be
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he's telling me get a snack. It's almost 10 o'clock at night. It's time to eat.
Brother, come on. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
All right, what time's dinner?
Right.
Better be at that time then.
Oh man. See, and that's the problem too. Is if you go past it, you get belly aching, and then if it's a few minutes early too, it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're a bunch of old farts here. We're gonna eat early. Right. We gotta get in bed before 8.
Very, very few battles can you win.
Yeah,
I'm okay with being an old fart. Just so you know. Yeah, I am an old fart at this point. So yeah, I don't know that it can be too early.
With that.
Yeah.
Early, if you're not a half an hour early, you're late. And I'm a firm believer in that. So if you're not a half hour early, you're late.
To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late.
That's right.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we?
I've lost
We're
track.
going.
Well, we talked about calls with dad. So we'll talk about probation and coming on the job.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
actually, 5 of us got hired together. Great time.
Oh, you're a big group.
Yeah, we were a big group. Yep.
Okay.
So the 3 of us that were on shift together, it was Ryan Collins, Troy Porter, and I. So the 3 of us were on probation together. So if anybody knows Ryan, I mean, he's super smart. So I always felt like it was trying to keep up with him as far as the study stuff goes, one of my things that I felt like I did pretty well on, I used to deliver pizzas, so my district stuff was pretty good, so I could kind of take a little bit of a backseat on that, but I really had to have my nose buried in the book for all the essential stuff and hydraulics and all that. So, yeah, it was I had a great probation. Captain Sewell was my training officer, which I always had a ton of respect for Captain Sewell, and I think anybody that ever had him probably could say the same. He's kind of an icon on the department, so it's always a big thing. A big thing when you came off Captain Sewell's shift. It was, I always felt like it was a rite of passage for us. So, had a great probation. We had a lot of moving officers at the time. A lot of people were getting promoted around that same time. So I think I had a couple different drivers and a couple different officers during that time. So, but we came on in August, so we had a lot of time at the tower, which was awesome for getting started, having that nice weather to kind of get you geared up for that winter season where you're going to be making a lot of hydrants. We had a lot of big fires when I was on probation. Like we had the big, what was it, $1.2 million house that was on the south side of town.
Whispering Creek one or whatever.
The Cypress Point fire?
Yeah, Cypress Point.
Yeah, and that's one fire that just I'll always remember, because I remember we were up on, it was late at night and the wind's blowing right back at us, and we're like, man, we can't see anything through this smoke. And it was Captain Sewell and I were up on the stick, and we're like, man, we can't see anything through the smoke. And then finally Captain Sewell's like, scrape your mask. We're scraping the face piece, and it's like, oh, I can see again. There was there was such an ice.
Wow.
It was so much ice that we had to actually leave our face pieces connected to the basket because we couldn't take them down with us because they were frozen to it. I mean, it was just one of those kind of fires. But it was just, unfortunate obviously for the homeowners, but it was just kind of one of those things that you'll never forget. It's kind of a cool moment with Captain Sewell that I had, and I'll never forget that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you came on with 3, 5 total. Who else were the other officers down there when do you remember? Like the other crew guys?
Yeah, so I came on, it was Lieutenant Standish at that time, and then he ended up getting promoted. For drivers, I'm trying to remember, I know Assistant Chief Fulton at that time was doing some driving, and then got promoted very early on when I was down there. And then Captain Voloshin was also driving a little bit down there during that time. Wow. As far as on the engines, and then Lieutenant Fox was the driver of the truck at the time. So, again, all those guys have been promoted and been moving up the ladder, and I had a lot of good people to help me, build the base of my career. So it's great memories, awesome memories.
If you could build a kind of top influences or guys that helped mold your career, could you narrow that down at all, or could you?
That would be so hard.
Yeah,
that'd be so hard. I mean, I try to take as much of that from every person, whether they're an officer, a driver, even third firefighters, fourth firefighters. I mean, I really believe it's not about the bugles to make a leader.
Sure.
It's about just understanding leadership qualities and, good people or whatever it may be that is another piece that I can pick up from each one of those people. I'm a firm believer in you deserve respect from day one. There's some people that would argue against that. I believe that you deserve respect from day one, and you have the opportunity to either build that respect or lose that respect on your own, but you deserve it day one coming in. You're a person that has gone through the process and have done what you need to do to get this job, so you deserve the respect.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something there that you deserve respect, and you can either build or take away from that. So, giving a little insight to our younger folks, it takes a whole career sometimes to build your respect back, because it can get taken away in an instant. It's a lot harder to build that respect back. So constantly giving that, you're gonna only get it back if that's what you give. So just giving that little peace of mind out to guys. But
I want to pick your brain on that a little bit too. What do you think are some of the best qualities that a new person or anybody in the fire service can do to gain respect of their peers?
My biggest piece is always honesty. Having the integrity, to be the person that does what's right even when nobody's looking. That's a huge piece for me. just having a good core base, good core values that you're starting with. I think those are probably my biggest ones that I would say that I would push.
I think everyone's asking you and values your opinion, not only just because of your family history here, but you emulate those. That's why we're talking to you today, too.
I appreciate that.
You're a guy that I think most people can say, that guy works as hard as he seems to work, appears to work, and then he practices what he preaches. So
I've been blessed to be put in the position to be able to do what I do. I'm thankful every day for everything that's been put in front of me. Sometimes I feel like I haven't even earned everything that I've been given at this point, which is a huge piece for me. I just, honestly, every day I'm thankful for where I'm at. So
yeah, and I'll say, working with you, and you do practice what you preach, because with the way you interact with the younger floaters when they come in and stuff, and you don't give them a cold shoulder. You don't tell them to go away. I mean, you try to be a mentor to them and teach them about the job and all the things, things that I think were instilled to you, when you came on and stuff from your dad growing up and everything, but you could really feel that goes into how much pride and how grateful you are and humbled to have this position and how much it does mean to you. You can really, you can see that and you can feel that, even just if anybody spends any time working with you, you can, yeah, it's a tangible thing,
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, you, like you said, you talked about being in love with the job, basically. For new guys coming on, do you have more advice on encouraging them to get to a spot that you're at? You worked to where you got at, you didn't just my dad was at Force, so I'm gonna get to go to Force, right?
Right.
So
right.
Telling people to know their role.
Yeah. I think obviously you gotta earn your, you gotta earn your stripes. There's no other way to say it. I'm kind of have that little bit of an old school mentality, that says, obviously for probationaries, that officer should never have a broomstick. And I know that's probably hard when you are the officer at threes, but as a probie, you should be taking that initiative. You should be kind of doing what you can do to earn the respect and earn your stripes into your position. And I think it's just kind of a rite of passage. And it's not to degrade anybody. It's just to show your willingness to work and to put in the time and the effort that's needed to give this job the pride and everything that comes along with it, right? Yeah. So, that's always been a huge piece for me. I just kind of always had that thought.
Right.
Being a part of the team, right?
Yeah.
It takes a whole team. It's not one guy. It's not absolutely. One gal. It's the reason we expected this of you is because it's going to be expected of you the rest of your career. No matter what position you're in.
Yeah, whether it's in the station doing activities or maintenance, and on the fire ground, there's a lot of carryover between the two.
Yeah.
So, we talked about things that helpful advice, for everybody, including new personnel. What do you think are some pitfalls that, over the course of your career, what are some mistakes that people have made that, if we could pass on some advice to people to just avoid these things, whether...
I would, again, it's probably going to go back to just what we were talking about. Me, it's avoiding negativity. Negativity doesn't do anybody any good. Try to find a positive light in as many negative situations as you can. Try to understand that the harder you work and the more passion and time that you put into something, the more you're going to get out of it. The more you're able to pour your heart into something, the more you're going to get back out of it. So, I think everybody has the ability to earn whatever they want in this career.
That's key there. Earn. Everything's earned by everyone.
Right.
So, whether you respect a guy or not, you got to respect the fact that they did what they needed to do to get on the job. I'm bringing it back around to basically what you said earlier. You might not respect the guy, but you got to respect the rank. I can't stand Phil, but I respect that he's a captain now. We're going to address the elephant in the room. Congratulations, Phil.
Congratulations.
About getting captain.
Congrats.
So our own Phil Marchand just recently got promoted to captain. And
well done,
we
sir.
like that.
Yeah,
and
so
good for you, man. Captain. Look at me. I'm the captain. There is no ranking before the tones drop, okay?
Right.
No, there completely is.
Yeah, there's no bugle sitting on the table here. So
Yeah.
So you come from a long line of Sioux City firefighters, and we'll brush over it kind of briefly, but that might continue. You know,
It has potential.
Getting into your family here,
Yeah.
Your own personal family. You got one that's kind of trying to take the same path, huh?
Yes, yeah. He actually tested for the department. I guess I kind of took my dad's lead on that. He's been talking about it his entire life, you know, since he was probably. I mean, I got papers from back when he was 3 years old, drawing drawings saying that he wanted to be a firefighter, and I kept kind of encouraging to not necessarily not go that path, but to seek out other things too and make sure that this is what he wants to come back to, right? So I kind of told him, I said, you know, we can teach you to be a firefighter. You know, I mean, you can go do the fire science thing, you can go that route if you want, but I would rather see you go to school for your backup plan. You know, if for some reason this doesn't work out, what else would you like to do, right? And we kind of worked through that a little bit, and he really wanted to get into personal training, and I said, yeah, I get that, but around here, you know, you can do it with a degree, but you can also do it without a degree. I said, let's think of something else. And he decided to go to school for education at the time, and went and got his degree and kind of went that route. And then he got into the schooling and all that, and he's like, okay, so I like this, but I still, you know, he's still getting pulled back to wanting to be a firefighter, right? And I'm like, great. You know, you've kind of experienced that a little bit. So then what was happening is he's like, okay, so my next step is I need to go get my EMT. So went and got his EMT, and then decided it was time to test because the testing process came up, and he tested, and obviously with the list, it sounded like he did pretty well on the test. Good. So
cool.
So yeah, now he's kind of just waiting and seeing what's going to happen from here.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Yeah,
you're probably just as excited about the whole process as him, if not more, right?
Maybe more nervous. You know, of course, you know, you always want to see your kids be successful as well, right? You know, you always want to see your kids be successful. So you get to that point and it's like, okay, now I'm feeling his nerves. I've been there. I've done that. I've sat on those lists. I understand what that's like. You know, it's nerve-wracking. So you kind of are starting to feel that same feeling again, even though it's been, you know, 16, 17 years since I felt that last, but it's there again right now, you know, just waiting to see what happens for him. So
what's mom's, you know, your wife, what's, you know, it's her, because now she's in the same position basically that your mom would have been in, right? Because, you know, your dad on the job, you make the list and potentially be a firefighter. So, you know, what's mom think and dad think, and now you and Alicia are in the same kind of boat that, you know, so what's she think about?
Mom always has that, you know, I think a lot of times the moms go right into the fear of the risk of the job, you know, and I think what I've done is I've told my wife, I said, you know, we do a lot of training to try to, I don't want to say avoid the risk, but try to manage that risk as much as we can, right? I mean, through the department, that's what we do, is we try to manage risk. You know, there's no other way to do it. You're going to have to take the risk, but just explaining to her, you know, it's going to be fine. It's all well-trained people that have gone through the same process. You know, he's going to be okay. You know, I think for me, obviously, you know, we've had a lot of push on that lately as far as the mental health side of it. You know, that's probably for me the bigger worry, because we see a lot of things that a lot of other people don't see, and just you know, that kind of world has changed a lot where now it's encouraged that you talk about instead of discouraged that you talk about those type of things. So kind of starting that conversation if that day ever comes that, you know, you need to reach out for some help. So that's kind of
what about you know, what about the other kids? I mean, are they excited that big brother could potentially be a firefighter? What does Aria think of the whole thing?
Well, she's 9, so her thought process is about 2 seconds long. Yeah. So it might be like oh cool, and then she's on her. She's sure.
If anybody's ever met her, she is the sweetest little angel you've ever met in your life. Oh my God, she is a sweethart. That girl.
Good
is.
thing she's just like mom then.
Right? Yeah. They all are. Yeah, yeah, they all are.
You hit the lottery again.
Yeah, thank goodness. So they have all taken a different path than I have, which is definitely a good thing for all 3 of them. They're good kids.
Better, just different.
Just different. Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely had a little bit of I had a lot more of a learning curve than they had.
Well, that's good. That just means I have a good teacher then.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, you're not going to do anything I haven't
Yeah,
done.
well,
so
let's see,
guess
and that's
what?
Mom kind of was a little bit more of a perfectionist her entire life and still is. So usually, she's a little bit harder. I'm hard on them. I'm not gonna say that I'm not, but usually she's like, I can't believe they did that, and I'm going, this isn't the end of the world, I don't want to tell you that I've done worse, but I might have. So
what did and then we've kind of being on the job. You already had family kind of established, like you said. You had Dom already, and then Dawson on the way, and kind of established family when you got the job. So what did that? Because we've all kind of shared stories as far as we've talked about what that does to a family. This job does to the family as far as the stresses and everything. But you kind of almost had that almost a different thing where all of a sudden you got this stability.
yeah.
What was that like? I guess for your family life and stuff, to go from not knowing what we're going to do to like all of a sudden we have benefits, regular paycheck every couple weeks. I mean, what did that kind of?
I would say for me, the biggest part is you go from when you're younger, you're looking about jobs, what's my job? What's my job? What's my next job? How can I get a better job? And then you get hired here and it's not a job. It's not even a career. When you get hired on this, doing this, it's a lifestyle. You are looked at for this position, whether you are on or off duty. There's a certain thing that happens, and I don't even know how to explain it, but you're looked at everything you do that you are a firefighter. I can't tell you how many ball games that I've been to where maybe a kid gets hurt and they're looking up in the stands to see if you're up there because they know that you've been trained in EMS or you're a person that can help when something happens, right? And then just again taking the pride in the fact that you have a certain level of, I don't even want to call it given respect because it's been earned through the years from all those that came before us, right? So, I mean, that badge is definitely something that I don't take lightly. That's something that's, an important piece of what we do. And again, that goes back to why that integrity for this department is so important, to make sure that is always looked at that way,
Yeah, absolutely. It's always bigger than ourselves.
Oh,
always
man.
will be, always has been.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think everybody that ever gets on this job, I hope that everybody that gets on this job always has that same feeling.
Yeah.
Do you share stories with Alicia as far as calls and different things? I mean, can she see that? I know my wife will tell me, some days when I come, if we had something really bad or a bad night or something, she could see it on my face the next morning. She'll, she'll either ask, did you have a bad night? And I'll be like, I was okay. And I mean, there's some things that, depending on the call, there's things that I don't share with her just because I don't necessarily want her to either worry, or especially if it's something involving like kids and stuff, I don't want her then to like relate that back to, especially, when younger, when our kids were really, really little, and you'd have a SIDS call or something with an infant or whatever. And I didn't want to share that with her because I didn't want her to get worried. So I would keep that, but certain calls, I will share and maybe leave out some details so she doesn't get too worried about what we do, because I mean, it is, I mean, risk a lot, save a lot, risk a little, save a little. The nature of our job is to, we risk our lives. That is no joke. We will we will risk our lives to save other lives. So I guess is there, how much do you share with Alicia and talk to her and stuff and about calls and just things that you experience?
I would say that I'm a lot better about sharing things now, just again with a lot of that education with mental health and whatnot, and just kind of talking about things. I definitely am very aware of what I feel like I should and should not share. Mm-hmm. Obviously there's certain things. My wife is very much a neat freak, a clean freak. If I talk about anything that is not like perfect, she kind of gets a little bit of anxiety anyway. So I got to kind of be careful in the way that I bring things up, but we have our ways of talking about it. A lot of times another thing I can do is, obviously with Dad being involved with the department, that's another person that I can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a cool piece to have. So we've discussed things in the past, and, obviously that's what we use. I shouldn't say use, but it is. That's what we use. Some of our interdepartmental humor that we have amongst our crews, right?
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's part of our release as well. So, I'd say I bring home maybe a little bit, but there's a lot of the stuff I probably keep away from her.
Yeah.
You probably had a good understanding of the job, of course, just from being around it when you were younger. So you guys were married before you got on the job, but she had an idea of what she was getting into, right?
She definitely knew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
she definitely knew. Cause
that's what I would say is probably one of the harder things for the younger people on the job is if you're not married and stuff before, it always, I don't care who you talk to, it changes when you get married. It should. And the job's not going to change though, and your scheduling and all that you got to figure out as you go. But for the most part, she had an idea of kind of what you guys were getting into.
Yeah, she knew. I mean, when we first started dating, she kind of knew that was probably my end goal, and already kind of laying the groundwork to let her know what that working 24 hours. I'm
Sure.
gone for 24 hours no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of that 24-48 schedule. So it's like if there's a concert that night, there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to be there. And you just got to understand that full day you're kind of on your own. I can help those other days, but that's just kind of the way the schedule goes. So
And then when does stuff usually break down too?
all the time when you're gone.
Vehicles, dishwasher,
You'll have a water leak when you're at work.
Timing is perfect.
So you always, and that's the other thing is you're always preparing them. So they, in a way, they are prepared probably more than most, because I'm always like, okay, so if something happens, here's what you do.
Yeah.
Here's the water shut off. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Where maybe, the regular person doesn't necessarily do that as much because they're going to be home to take care of it, right? Where we've got to make sure that they're prepared if all heck breaks loose when I'm at work. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So, and then all those calls, of course, when the kids are acting up, because of course they don't act up when Dad's home. They never act up when Dad's home. It's always when Dad's away, So you get a phone call like, so-and-so is talking back to me. And it's like, okay, well, let me pick up my other phone and call him and let him have it.
Now, have you done the classic dad move? You're at the firehouse, and I will take the rig to our house, and we're gonna have a talk. Have you done that one?
Do I need to come home? No, Dad. Nope.
No,
don't need
good.
to come home.
We're good.
Nope.
Yeah.
Those words, they know.
They do.
Yeah.
Can't wait for those days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, is there anything else? Because we're kind of getting to the point we're going to start talking about something that I know you are like. I can't even begin to say how passionate you are about our next subject and stuff that we're going to get into after the break. But is there anything else, like as far as the job, the hiring process, family, anything else that you want to you'd want to touch on or share and stuff before we kind of get to the point where we get into talking about St. Florian and stuff?
Oh man, the only thing I'd go back to is, if this is a career that you're looking at, definitely by all means take the steps necessary to get here. It's a great career. Obviously there's a couple things that you'll give up with some of the family things that maybe you're going to give up on a day-to-day basis, but it's worth every bit of it once you get here. You work with great people. I always say the administration, the chiefs through the years, they're really good at hiring people that are very similar, which is good but bad sometimes. I say they hire a lot of people with ADD and OCD, which are two great things when you want nice, clean things, and people are going to work their tails off, but it's a great career. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
No,
it doesn't get
greatest
any better
job on
than
earth.
this,
Absolutely.
It really is.
I mean, you deal with a lot of those stressors day to day, but in the end, being able to sit back and reflect and take that time to really appreciate what it is that we have the opportunity to do is huge. So love what I do. There's not a day that goes by that I don't look forward to going to work.
Awesome.
That was awesome. I think before we take a break then too, we should acknowledge a couple changes that we did make here at before the tones drop. So you can see now, and are you picking it up on the cameras? So our nice new tablecloth actually has a cool logo in the middle and stuff. So that's very nicely done. That's Baker worked, our producer worked on getting that done with some help from somebody that printed it. Was that
Kylie Lang.
Kylie
She
did
had
that.
it.
Yeah.
Very
Okay. So
nice.
Kylie, to got that
Thanks,
done
Kylie.
for us. So that's awesome. It's a cool piece now to really kind of finalize some of the stuff. Anybody that's watched our first show to now, episode 6, we're halfway through a year now that we've made it this far. So
that would be 6, yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Half of 12. Yeah, that's 6.
I've never watched one of
That's
these.
how you get captain, folks.
The guys on the show never. Yeah,
I've never watched
it. It's the math stuff, dude. We do math. We do hydraulics. We do math. Simple math, counting fingers and toes. Anyways, but no, to really kind of start to kind of really polish everything from the first. We had the big audio upgrade. We've had video upgrade. Now we're kind of finishing the set and stuff, and then the other piece here is our awesome backdrop that we have. That's a big thanks to Luann at Lindblade out at GR Lindblade that I went through to get to reach out to. She actually reached out to the museum so we could get the high res. We found the picture. The picture was found, I think, once again, our producer Baker might have found that picture. We kind of came up with that. But then the museum actually got us the high resolution image so we can, because if anybody knows anything about pictures and stuff, you can't just take a picture or screenshot and then blow it up this big and get the resolution. You have to have that high resolution picture, which we did. So the museum was able to get us that. And then I'd like to also thank Kim at Signs by Tomorrow and their crew out there for printing it out and getting it done for us. So this is, it is the definition on this is really incredible. If you can see even the detail, even the names of the horses and stuff, the horse stalls, you could see just a really, really cool picture of done. So yeah, just kind of clean things up, make it a little bit more professional for us, because I think we are getting pretty professional at what we're doing here, or at least we like to think we are, but whatever. So Ship, we got anything else?
Anything else you want to talk about family wise? We talked about your wife's support of you and Dom kind of getting going. Do you want to talk any more about the other kids, or
Obviously, I could
before
talk
we get
all day,
going
but
on the other thing,
I don't want to bore everybody else about my family. But obviously, I got.
So what's the Tro clan involved? How many?
So I have
you got going?
My wife Alicia, who's obviously been the rock. She's been the one that's pushed me in the right direction, even when I was not heading in the right direction. So I always give her all of the props, because I don't feel like I'd be where I'm at today without her. And then I have Dom. He's 22, just about to graduate college. I got Dawson. He's a sophomore, so he's plugging away, doing good in school.
Any interest at all?
No, absolutely not.
Taking a different path.
He is the kid that is definitely probably going to take the farthest path away from firefighting as possible.
Amen.
And it's more just because
what's he going to do? Invest all your money or what?
No, he actually right now his dream is that he said he wants to be a aerospace engineer.
Yeah, that kid is crazy smart.
Well, that's definitely from the mother then.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. And then my daughter wants to be everything all at the same time.
Well, she can, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
So
that's
she's
cool.
She's a great girl. She's had a few curveballs thrown at her in life. She's got alopecia, so she doesn't have a hair on her body, but you would never know that by meeting her. She's a spunky little fun girl that always has a smile on her face, always running around, and I try not to favor her too much, but I think the boys probably know where they both line in succession order. Actually, I think my wife probably knows that she falls below Aria as well. So, well, and if not, now she knows.
that girl is
right.
She's like, hey, Dad, guess where you are wrapped around my finger.
Daughters
baby.
have that effect.
Yeah. Hopefully she never watches this, because she'll probably use it to her advantage.
This is locked away forever.
Yeah.
And she'll probably end up seeing it. But
again, I've never seen it, so I don't know why she would watch it.
that changes after today.
Okay.
He's gonna then he's gonna watch it and be like, man, I don't like how I look on
I'm
that show.
I'm gonna
never
work
watch another
overtime
one.
out at Fours just so I can strap you to the bed
The guy that hates
and then
social
play
media.
it over your face.
The guy that hates
repeatedly
social
on
media.
loop.
hates
All of our
podcasts.
episodes. I'm gonna be like,
It's
you're
all
gonna
of
sit
it,
here.
like sitting
You're
on
gonna
a
like it.
show as
Right.
you're watching it.
Yeah.
You guys can't. It's on YouTube, so the TV in the kitchen. You guys can pull it up and watch it in the evening and stuff. And
How do you
watch
use YouTube?
Oh my goodness.
What's me too? What is it? Is it you or me?
Yeah.
That's that operator.
Well, Steve will have to come over and show you how to use it. Look, it's right here. Look. All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us. We're going to take a hard break, and then we'll be back at it.
All right.
All right, we're going to get started again with St. Florian and go right into it. So what is St. Florian? How did that get started?
So St. Florian was started in 1993 by a group of actually 4 firefighters and 4 burn nurses up at St. Luke's when St. Luke's had a burn unit. Initially, when it was started, it was there for fundraising for more for prevention. I don't think this at that time. I don't think the department had much of a budget for prevention. So they kind of decided to take their steps to do as much as they could with prevention, and then that eventually grew into being able to offer some survivor support also up at the burn unit and even outside the burn unit, also to help pay for like nurses training with some of the burn care and different things like that. So yeah, that started then. I can look back at our bylaws and figure out exactly who the 4 are, but I don't remember off the top of my head which ones they were. And then 1995 was the first year that they started the Miracle Burn Camp. So they felt like there was a need to have a burn camp to be able to give these survivors, these young survivors, an opportunity to be able to get together and to meet another survivor. Obviously with burns, thankfully, it's not a real common injury. So a lot of people don't know a burn survivor, including the survivors themselves. So it gives them a network and a group that they're able to have this close-knit family that they're able to bounce things off. So if they're having maybe a hard time at school or whatever they've got going on, that they're able to reach out to somebody that's been through something similar as they have. So again, that started in 95. At the first year, it was actually at Stone Park on the north side of town. It was just a weekend camp. And then I believe it was 96, they moved it up to Okoboji, and that's when the partnership happened with Camp Foster up there. And then it just grew from there. So it's crazy to see where it started and to look back and to see where we're at today and kind of go through all that transition.
How did it get its name, St. Florian, for people that don't know?
Yeah, so St. Florian is a patron saint of firefighters. So, it's our belief that St. Florian helps protect us in a fire. And then that they kind of took that name, which it was crazy to me that name wasn't already taken from something.
Absolutely.
I mean, you think about how long that's been the patron saint of firefighters, and here in the 90s, it wasn't already taken. That's
that
crazy.
Is a little crazy.
So,
it was meant to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
It was a perfect fit, and so they adopted the name at that point, and kind of the rest is history.
And how did you get involved?
So I got involved.
With the tradition thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I got involved I should say I probably first got involved in like 1996. I was a sophomore in high school, I think it was. Dad was going up to help work on, I believe it was Yanni Beach at the time. They were building a cabin. There was a bunch of firefighters that were going up and volunteering their time to build Yanni Beach, where they were going to have like a fishing dock and some things going on up there. And at that time, the Y didn't have a very big budget, so the firefighters got a bunch of materials donated and went up and helped build this thing. And my dad, it was the weekend that I was with Dad, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go up to camp with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I'll go up there, So went up, and I don't remember doing a whole lot. I'm thinking I probably was more just a gopher because I didn't really do any pounding of nails or anything like that, but just going up there and kind of seeing the passion and seeing the camp and seeing the pride that he was taking in what he was helping to build at that time. So obviously going up to Okoboji and back, that gives you a couple hours. So I remember kind of having our talks about what camp was and what camp meant to him and what it does for these survivors and kind of how his experience were. And I guess back then I didn't feel like it resonated that much, but later on in life, obviously it did a lot more than I thought it did. So again, another lesson is just even though you may think your kids aren't listening, they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what the foundation has done, the amount of kids that it has supported through the years. We take anywhere between 50 and 70 burn survivors every year up to Miracle Burn Camp. We spend a week up there, give them a safe place where they're able to just be kids, be there amongst their peers, where maybe at home people might look at them a little bit differently because they obviously, a lot of them have some scarring and some other things going on. So it gives them a place where they're safe, they're around other people that have been through the same similar circumstances as them. It's kind of funny because you'll go there on like Monday, and we have our swim day, and they'll do a little bit of swimming, and you'll see like maybe the older kids are all, yeah, let's go swimming, and then the younger ones that maybe have only been there for a couple of years, maybe are used to kind of being a little bit more covered. And then by the time you hit like Tuesday or Wednesday, they're all like, yeah, and they're in the pool, just like any other kid. And that's like one of those moments where it's like, yes, that's exactly what we're looking for. We want to see them just forget about it. Be a kid, be a kid just like any other kid. So, that's obviously a big piece for us.
Yeah. So where do these kids come from?
So these kids will come from anywhere in the state of Iowa. We'll provide transportation. We have one bus that'll start over in Davenport, I believe. One of them starts, and then the other one's like Cedar Rapids. So they'll run across 20 and run across the interstate, and the parents, all they got to do is get them to one of our pickup points. We'll pick them up. We'll run them up to camp. So they come all over Iowa. We do have some kids out of like the Omaha area. We probably have a handful of maybe 4 or 5 right now out of Omaha area. We'll also take kids South Dakota. Honestly, if a kid wants to come to camp, we'd take them from anywhere.
Sure.
We're not going to exclude anybody that would want to come to camp.
Not.
So if they want to come, we'll find a way to make it work. All we got to do is get them from point A to point B. So.
And that's the same with the foundation in general, right? That serves whoever needs it, kind of, right?
Exactly. So we support anybody in that area as well for survivor support. It's really cool for me is that our organization, our fire department, our local is what started this foundation, and to see how it has grown, and now that we provide the support for survivors from across the state. I mean, we built that.
Yeah.
We built that survivor support network, and that's all something that's a huge sense of pride that it came from here. We were the ones that had the vision, meaning those that came before us had the vision to build this, to bring this to where we're at today. It's just another thing, just right now the hair on the back of my neck standing up, because it always just means so much to me to see where we started and where we've come from that.
Yeah.
How do other states have something like a St. Florian, or how special, I guess, is St. Florian's? How special is burn camp?
Well, I think St. Florian's the most special.
Obviously.
Obviously. But yes, there's 50 burn camps across the United States and Canada.
That's still, you're part of a small group there.
You are, yeah. Yep.
You talk about how big North America is,
right.
Obviously.
Yeah, there's only 50 burn camps across the United States and Canada. A huge sense of pride that we take is we are, there might be a second one now, so excuse me if I'm wrong, but we are the only integrated burn camp in the whole United States. So a lot of other burn camps, what they'll do is they'll close down for the week, and they only have burn survivors there. And in the past, we've gone to conferences, different things, and when you tell them that it's an integrated camp, people kind of are like, you can't do that, how are you giving them that safe space? And we're like, no, you don't understand. The week that we have up at burn camp is like the first week that sells out. These kids are if you want to call them the regular campers, the resident campers are the ones that they will fill that week up first, knowing that it's burn week.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, it's the inclusion of everything and getting it to be normalized to people look like this.
Exactly.
We might not know one personally, but you're going to run into someone with something.
Right, and it gives you an opportunity to also teach those people that haven't been burned about what some of these people have been through. Maybe teach a little bit of that compassion in the process. Because some of these kids obviously are, they're anywhere from 7 to 17. It gives us an opportunity to educate people about burn survivors, about burn prevention. It's our week that the Y thankfully lets us kind of come in, and usually they run the entire week, and they still do run all the programming, but we kind of come in and we're like, all right, this is what we want to do. And they're like, yeah, whatever you guys want to do, So we're able to kind of tweak it a little bit and make it special to us for camp. And then, like I said, the regular resident campers. They're running around with our burn campers, intermingling the whole entire week. My kids, they've been up there. I send them up to camp that same week. Of course, it costs you a little bit, but it's well worth the lesson that they're able to learn while being there, and being able to be included in that whole world as well. We have kids from, we have some of our kids maybe are in wheelchairs or have had limbs that have been amputated or things like that. So we have primarily firefighters and nurses that are up there that kind of help take care of the kids because a lot of them will need a little bit more care. We have to obviously get them transitioned from event to event. So whether it's horseback riding or swimming or canoeing or whatever it may be, we've got to get them moved from place to place. So we've got a pretty good crew that we take up there for the week.
Cool.
Can you talk about, because I'm sure when you have the campers, the staff, the volunteers there, there's got to be some really good connections that are made during that week. And when you first get there, there's probably a few familiar faces, but I imagine that last day is probably emotional for everybody.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I definitely can, yeah. The week, when they get off the bus, of course, we've got the kids that have been there year after year after year, that are maybe even getting close to what we call timing out, where they're getting close to that 17 where they can't come to camp anymore. They'll get off the bus and it's immediate hugs and everybody's catching up, and it's almost like they just left camp, even though it's been a whole year. These kids,
Wow.
A lot of these kids, it's like, all right, we're back at it. This is my favorite place to come. I look forward to it every year. This is my place. It's crazy because I've heard multiple times from multiple burn survivors, and this is a concept that, again, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around, but they will say they are thankful for their burn injury, which is just like that. The thought of that is just like, man, how does somebody even say something like that? And they'll say, I'm so thankful that it has given me the opportunity to meet this family, this new family that I've got. And it's like, man, if that's what makes me come back. It's like, all right, we need to get back to work. Let's get this thing going and let's make sure that we can fundraise to keep this organization moving forward. So,
What a perspective to have,
Oh,
especially
man.
at that age.
Man, it's
that
crazy.
age
It is.
range.
yeah, so we get up there, and like I said, Monday we kind of get into things on. We get to Thursday, we have our burn campfire, which is always a really special night for us. That's where our survivors have an opportunity to tell their story if they're comfortable telling it. I would say probably 70% of our kids actually will get up and tell their story about what happened with them. So it's also a therapeutic event for them, being able to actually talk about it and understand that it's their story to tell. And if they feel comfortable, by all means, get up and tell their story.
There's probably not a dry eye anywhere in sight.
I know
That's gotta
mine
be pretty
are
tough.
never on.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a person that
Right.
wears my heart on my sleeve,
Yep.
so I'm probably already tearing up before I even get up there because I know what I'm about to experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids, it's crazy because you get up there and you'll go up, and these have been kids that you've been playing with all week, and the most positive, happy, fun-loving kids, and then you hear their story, and you're thinking, wow, how are you able to maintain that kind of an attitude with everything that you have been through? It's a time for me also selfishly that I go up there, and it's self-reflection as well, right? You get up there and you're like, man, I complain about some really minor things day to day, and then you're able to go up there and go, I've got nothing to complain about.
That's awesome, though, for you.
Yeah.
You're able to
Yeah.
at least have the insight for yourself
Right.
to realize, man, things aren't that bad,
No,
are they? Ever?
no, life is good. And even
Yeah.
for these kids, and they'll say it as well. Life is
Life
good.
is good. Absolutely.
It's about taking a negative situation and trying to find a positive light to it, right?
And look at the support network too for these kids too. I mean, they're making lifelong friends. They're gonna be able to help each other get through these tough times. And it sounds like they have really good staff, including you, that they can always reach out to if they're having that tough day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we definitely try to preach that family aspect for us. Whether we leave camp, a lot of these kids will, especially in the day of cell phones, which they're able to get a hold of each other just by sending a text message, making a phone call. Again, just that network. There's so many things that have been done through the years, and there's so many programs that this foundation has built. One of them, there's so many of them, I can tell about pretty much all of them, but like one of them is we will do school reentries. So maybe if a kid has been burned and they're nervous about going back to school looking different, right? We can actually send maybe a person or a team in there to talk to the kids about what they're going to see, what they're going to experience, and what that kid has also been through. Wow. So again, hopefully to kind of just help teach maybe a little bit of compassion to kids and make them a little bit more understanding about what it is this kid has been through, right? So, we have that. We have our young adult burn retreat. So our kids at time out of camp, because they become 18 or over, they're able to get together as kind of a young adult group. And in years past, we've done stuff with college planning or whatever it is, trying to help them to not just become survivors, but to also thrive. What else can we do to help them in their path to recovery?
Yeah, so it just doesn't end after camp.
It doesn't.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah.
Nope. And then we have our Burn Survivors Together events, which I don't know if you guys have ever been. I know a couple of you have been around when we've done those, where we'll have local events where we try to get our survivors together and just basically just have a family day. Just a day where a day where we're all able to be together and chit chat. And now with the gala has become like a big Burn Survivors Together event, which is awesome. We have a ton of survivors that come back to that. And it's great seeing everybody together, see all of our family, all of our burn survivors together and having a good time.
So
go ahead, Chip.
You talked about first kind of getting your feet wet firsthand with it, like in '96. You're the president now of the board. Right?
Vice president. Yep.
Vice president of the board. When did you formally get on that board and
So I started the job in 2006. I went through my probationary year. So in 2007, the person that was in charge of it at that time, which would have been Jeff Benson, got a hold of me and he's like, "Hey, I know your dad was involved in this a lot. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, right away, definitely, I'd be interested in that. So. I'm pretty sure I started the board right away in 2007. At that time, I think we were a board of 3. We had an annual budget of like $15,000 to $20,000 a year, a very, very small budget. We only had to take care of about 7 to 10 kids that were all right here in the Siouxland area. So it was a pretty small group, and then the University of Iowa actually covered the rest of the kids across the state. So they would actually fund the rest of Miracle Burn Camp, and they would fund some of the survivor support stuff and all that kind of stuff. So then kind of what happened is through the years, that partnership was going pretty well, and then actually it was 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, that University of Iowa contacted us and said that the endowment that they had, I didn't realize that it was all being paid out of an endowment, but the endowment that they had actually ran dry, and they weren't going to be able to provide any funds for camp that year. And my question was at that point, I think camp was only a couple months away. I'm like, so are we talking you guys are good for this year? And they're like, no, we don't have any money to provide support. And we were doing a fairly good job fundraising at that time and had a whole whopping $30,000 saved up, which was huge for us. Camp cost us about $50,000 to put that camp on every year. So we're like, oh my gosh,
how are we going to do this?
How are we going to do this? And what happened was we're like, we're starting to count kids, and we're like, man, which kids are we not going to bring to camp this year because we can't afford all these kids, So I still remember that day vividly, and thank goodness somebody's looking out for us, and the Y actually stepped up that year, and they said, we'll actually scholarship your other kids. This is a one-time scholarship. You guys better get working, because this is it. And then we literally drained our account that year to send what kids that we could to camp, and then they scholarshiped the rest of us, and that's kind of where our fundraising efforts really had to ramp up. We were forced to ramp up at that point. So, yeah, and then fundraising wise, we we started doing, we had a donor that came forward and offered us a match campaign. They said, we'll give you $100,000 if you raise $100,000. And we're like, yeah, that's not possible. You know, the biggest fundraiser we've ever done is like $15,000 to $20,000. I mean, Awesome Biker Nights was like our big fundraiser back then. You know, they donated money to Miracle Burn Camp. And we're like, that's not even possible. You know, $100,000 is so far outside our wheelhouse. You know, we are just a small board. There's no way we can make this happen. And thank goodness we have all of our people that supported the cause. We've had some great donors that stepped forward. We worked our tail off, and we ended up hitting that $100,000 match campaign. So there we had $200,000 in the bank, and we're like, okay, sweet. We have like 4 years of burn camp saved up, you know. We're pretty much back to where we were, but now we knew that our budget was obviously a lot bigger because now we're encompassing and raising money for basically the entire state as far as burn survivors. So it was a big year. It was a stressful time. I'll never forget the time when we were deciding which kids weren't going that year. That was a hard year for us.
Never wanted to have to do that
no,
again.
No. Right. And that's kind of where all that drive and all this fundraising. Again, we're so blessed to be in the position we are right now. We're
Well, it's
supported.
good that people see the value in it. You know, just from hearing your passionate talk about it, you know, like when I first came on, I hadn't heard that much about St. Florian until I got on, you know, just because working across the state, you know, and not knowing like a burn survivor myself.
Right.
But then you meet them and you're like, man, this
Yeah.
has got to keep going. We got to get it as big as possible, you know. And so just hearing your talks about it and then being on Sioux City Fire, being able to be a part of it just in my small way or our small way we can be. Then you get to the gala starting, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about
Sure.
how that started and where we're at now? And
Yeah. I mean, that's all surreal. It's again, it's just crazy what it's became. So again, we had Awesome Biker Nights at the time. That was one of our big donors. That event was kind of struggling. There was a few bad weather years. Kind of had a little bit of a falling out, and we kind of decided at that point we're gonna try to do something on our own. So a buddy of mine, Chris Fisher, we kind of were sitting down chit-chatting one day, and he came up with this idea. He's like, hey, why don't we have like an adult prom, you know, like a gala? And it was just a few years before that we had the 100th anniversary of the union, you know, and we had that event that was awesome. And I remember everybody saying, man, I wish we could do that every year. So right when he said that, I'm like, that's like exactly what we did that everybody said they loved so much, you know. So we decided to try it. And anyway, he called me the next day and he's like, hey, I have the first two donors. I have the first two sponsors. And I'm like, oh, so we're really doing this. Like, when are we thinking? And at that time, he's like, well, like 2 months. Let's like do this in 2 months. Small scale event, right? Yeah. We were only planning on trying to raise like $20,000 to make up for what we were making off Biker Nights. So first year out of the gates, we had a lot of support. We sold like 300 tickets. I think it was 250 tickets. We ended up, after expenses, I think we raised like $40,000, which blew our minds, you know. You know, we always had this big dream of building this endowment. And I've always kind of been a guy that I like to think about money and how money works, you know. So I've always wanted to figure something out about how we can make the perpetual interest off investment earnings off the account cover the cost of St. Florian. So we kind of made a goal that we're going to maybe try to raise about $2 million. If we raise $2 million at a 4% payback for the foundation, it'd give $80,000. It'd almost cover the entire budget. So, yeah, and then we ended up getting into the gala, and year 2, I think we sold 400 tickets. Ended up raising, I think we were right at $100,000. Year 3, we sold 550 tickets, I think. After expenses, raised $150,000. So this whole $2 million endowment went from a
more
dream,
attainable, right?
Right, went from a dream that we thought it was going to be hard to achieve to something where it's like, man, we might be able to actually do this. So, now we're going into year 4, and we sold 720 tickets this year, which is just crazy.
So a quick number crunch on that. What are you projecting maybe for this year?
Well, my expenses have gone up quite a bit.
Of course,
so,
as they do with the bigger party you throw, the more expenses there are, right?
Right. So I'm going to say that I am hoping to hit the same number as last year at $150,000 after expenses, which would be great. I think if we would do like $200,000 after expenses, that would put us really close to $1 million in that endowment. So we'd be almost halfway there, which is, again, just crazy.
And when you talk about that $2 million endowment, what is that going to do then?
That will pay for St. Florian and everything that St. Florian does forever. They will never have to fundraise.
Just self-funded off the interest alone, right?
Self-funded off the investment.
Any kid wants to go for the rest of eternity.
Any kid that wants to go to Miracle Burn Camp will be covered forever. Wow, so to me, that's a huge, it's a huge legacy that we may be able to leave this state, this foundation, this department. I mean, it's a huge sense of pride that I take, and I think it's something that we're going to be able to actually get done.
I think Tro's underselling his huge sense of pride in that endowment. He really is, because I was, we were working together, on the same shift at the time when the university money fell through, and if you saw what this guy went through and the stress and the emotion and everything, he was physically sick at the thought of kids not going to camp or St. Florian just going away, because they're just the money to figure out where this money's going to come from. Like, this dude was like, the things that he went through and the stress and all this stuff. I mean, that's all he could talk about, all he could think about. It just, you could physically see it on him. So when the first match campaign came around, and his just the relief and the excitement, to the point of breaking down, you don't, like I said, he is underselling his pride in what he takes in this, and how important St. Florian is, and how important these kids are, and how much this endowment that they're building, and the fact that to leave a legacy in this lineage, that St. Florian, that burn camp and everything will be self-funded for eternity. Yeah, like I said, I saw what he went through when the thought of St. Florian not being around and not being able to be there. What he, in the bad years of awesome biker nights, and you're counting on this amount of dollars going, okay. And we're talking like counting pennies and nickels and dimes, and borrowing and steal, everything to make this work. And when you're counting on X amount of dollars and it's a bad weather year, and you get a third of that, if that, and go on, what do we do? There's nothing. This dude
we just got
put
$5,000 and usually make 20.
Right. This guy put, beg, borrowed, steal, anything he could do to find every dime and nickel, cleaning out pockets. Really to get things where they are. So he is, when he's talking about this, he is underselling himself and his connection to this thing, and what he does for these kids and what he does for this organization.
I'm no rocket surgeon, but just the short turnaround from when we stopped helping with biker nights to where St. Florian is now is insane. It's incredible. The numbers alone. I'm not a numbers guy, but it's done pretty well since then, and to the fruits of yours and Chris's efforts. Yeah. And luckily our members, stepping up to the plate, trying to help. And we always helped with biker nights, but it's just been so cool to see this thing grow to what it is.
It's amazing how much support we've had. We've got so many of our members that are connected, that they have great connections, that when we tell the cause, they're like, man, what can I do? Right? What can I do? And that's the other hard part about the foundation is it's a hard group to fundraise for. It's such a small group. So a lot of times when you start talking about what it is, not everybody knows a burn survivor. So it makes it that much harder for fundraising purposes, right? So, again, I really do. I give the credit to, we were doing station fundraisers. Station 1 did a big fundraiser for me. I had a few members that reached out that wrote personal checks that year. We had people coming out of the woodwork trying to do whatever they could do to save camp that year. And again, this is 5. We're almost exactly at 5 years ago was when that happened, where we were flat busted broke. And to think that now we're sitting on almost $1 million in that endowment, and we're we're actually looking at that final, or not, I shouldn't say final number, but looking at that number where maybe we can get to that $2 million mark, to where this foundation would be taken care of indefinitely, to where it's easy to find board members that'll go and play with the kids. It's hard to find people that'll fundraise, obviously. I'm not a fundraiser.
People hate asking for money, right?
I'm not a fundraiser. I absolutely hate fundraising. I just know that it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Absolutely.
And the only way that this foundation is going to be moving forward is if we're out there making those asks and trying to get that money in that account to make sure that this foundation and these burn survivors are taken care of forever. So
now in the gala, so tickets this year sold out, or we still got tickets?
No, we're sold out.
Sold out for the gala.
Sold out.
And you had
so
how many? 700 and
7, I think it was 720 something, whatever
Wow.
it figures out, times 8 with the room. I got a little obsessive compulsive
so
disorder.
that
I'm
just
certain
shows
way.
alone, the outreach of the community too.
Yeah.
Like, people want to
Yeah.
come to
There's
this event.
people that I see that friends that, and I see their posts and stuff with the gala and everything. I mean, have nothing to do with the fire service at all.
No,
But
yeah.
love the idea of A, just the gala in general, but then B, them
cause
knowing what
behind
the
it.
cause behind it is and what you're giving. But I mean, this is like a huge event that this has become,
Yeah, it's funny too, kind of what Phil was saying too, with people with no connection to the fire service or anything, and you see their posts on social media. Hey, we're at the St. Florian Gala. This is, in just pictures of them having fun, and it's the community buy-in on this is just huge. So you sold out at 720.
Yep.
Do you foresee it going higher?
So we've already kind of built the room for next year. That will be, and it's only adding like another 50 seats, and that'll be the max we'll ever probably let it get to. And that's just because we're trying to leave enough room to still have the event be the way that we intend it to be. Where
Yeah,
it's
because
still,
I like to dance.
Yeah, well,
I
I
want
know.
room to
I know.
dance.
And you got to leave you
He's
enough
quite
room
good
for a
at
big
it, too.
dance floor.
Pretty good.
Big dance floor.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, so I'm guessing next year we'll probably increase numbers by maybe another 40 or 50, but then that'll be the max that we'll ever really allow it to get to, because we don't really have a big enough place to hold anything that size.
And still sell out.
It's,
too.
yeah.
You'll still sell out.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. Again, all of the support from all of our donors. We wouldn't be able to do it without everybody that comes to the event, supports the event. It's just amazing. We never in our wildest dreams thought it would become what it has became.
Being able to go every year, I can firsthand attest it is fun.
It is a great time.
You bring burn survivors to this event too.
Yes.
And that alone, being able to see some of them and interact with some of them at the event, you get the whole room during the wet eye. There's not a dry eye in the place.
Right.
And them being able to come into that big a room of people, and stand up in front of people with their burns and stuff, and knowing that the help they got at camp is why they're possibly in that position to be in a room full of people like that, and all the attention's on them at the time. Just, you can see the fruition and how it translates from your guys' efforts firsthand. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah,
dude.
Derek, I don't think we'll ever understand how far the reach is with the St. Florian Burn Foundation, just starting at that camp, and then just how far it is affecting people's lives into the future even. So
Yeah,
this
I mean,
is amazing.
a kind of a cool story too is we had one burn survivor 4 or 5 years back that moved down to Texas. Our family moved away, and they actually reached out to us. They said, if we fly her back, will you guys let her come to camp? We're like, oh, by all means. So I mean, just even thinking about those fingers reaching out that far to where there's people in Texas that know the story. There's people like the gala. I know there's a group usually of like 8 people that come over from Chicago, as a family, that they're burn survivors that eventually moved to Chicago area, and now they're living there, that come back for the gala every year. I mean, it's just, again, the aspect of the burn survivors together part of this for me is just as big. Being able to also tell our story and to be able to tell people what it is we're out there trying to do. Being able to do that education about the foundation and what we're trying to do to move this foundation forward. And like I said, just to have all those burn survivors in the room. Most of those, it was crazy because like last year or the year before, we had Zoe, who's if she watches this, she was always like one of my favorite burn survivors, and it's hard to pick one out, but it was like every time she came to camp, she'd gravitate right for me, and then she would always have me a Hawkeye colored friendship bracelet that she would make me
That's
every
cool.
year. So my goal was always to try to wear that friendship bracelet for an entire year until camp the next year and have her replace it. So I had 1 year. It actually made it the whole year, because when she was like 7 and 8 years old making them, it was like 2 strands woven together that she would tie, and it's like, this thing ain't gonna make it more than a week. But eventually she got a lot better at making those bracelets, and eventually they lasted the whole year. But last year or the year before at the gala, she showed up, and I'm like, Zoe, what are you doing here? You know? And she's like, well, I'm 18. I'm like, holy smokes, man, that whole transition from, you know, I saw her come in year 1 as a 7-year-old burn survivor, and now she's coming back to the gala. You know, it's just been, you know, seeing that full transition of again, going from survivor to thriver, living her life, you know, doing her thing. It's just, it's so cool to see all of that happen, you know, and to be able to experience that.
Well, seeing the fruits of your labor, basically. And not that it's a huge labor to go hang out with
Right,
kids.
right,
It's awesome, right?
Right.
But knowing it made that big of an impact just on her life, that she's been, you know, 11 years and she's coming back to hang out with the same group of people that kind of took care of her since then. So
Just the self-confidence boost, the, you know, just the feelings that they have that, hey, look, I'm going to just live a normal life. We're good. You know, that's just so neat.
Yeah, we have another cool story. We have one of our burn survivors that, you know, I wasn't around when he was the little burn survivor, like 7, 8. I came into the foundation probably when he was like maybe 15 or so. And I remember them always saying, you know, like he was a troublemaker. He was a little troublemaker. So this kid ended up going through camp and eventually graduated out, actually came back, became part of our board for a little while, ended up doing some international outreach. So he actually went over to Zambia, Africa, and was teaching. They have a really big problem with burns over there, just with cooking. You know, a lot of theirs are cooking fires, or I shouldn't say cooking fires, scald burns, because they're cooking with like cauldrons and they get spilled on the kids, you know, because they're in some of these smaller communities. But anyway, his full transition, he actually ended up becoming a burn surgeon now.
Gee. Wow.
So this kid went from burn survivor to burn surgeon. If that story alone is like, man, to see what he has done in his life, you know, with what issues he's faced through his life, you know, it's surreal. It's just crazy to see how they've progressed.
So if anybody wants, we're going to post in our a couple links and stuff in the description on the video and stuff. So for St. Florian Fire and Burn Foundation, if anybody wants to find out more information about what there is a link. They do have and I pulled it up here, and there's a video on there that I remember when you recorded it at Station 4 and stuff, and they came in and did that. And watch that. I tell you what, if you have a dry eye after watching that video, like, I mean, you don't have a soul, because that was like, you know, to really to find out what this foundation is. It's a really good. It's a short video, but it really gets to the root of everything, and it hits you in the feels, and it really. Kind of brings to light what St. Florian, what the foundation is. So we're going to have a link to St. Florian Fire and Burn Foundation. We're also, unfortunately, you know, you can't get gala tickets this year.
Nope.
But I mean, you can mark it on your calendar, because it's the same time every year, right?
Well, next year it's going to be, I think it was 3/23 of 24. I think is our date for next year.
It's just in the same.
Just so you know,
weeks
it can't be on a
every year.
first shift day, because that's the day that I work.
I know it's always
so it
like,
always has to be not on a first shift.
Yeah, not
day.
on a first shift day, but
unless the department will give you a day.
This
off.
year is on a third shift day on April 1st. But you know, so people can pay attention and keep their ears open for when tickets go on sale. But then we're also going to, if somebody like still, you know, they still want to help, whatever, we're also going to post a link and stuff for being able to just make a donation if you want to put a donation in the description and stuff, so somebody can at least do that if they, you know, want to help. And always, you know, they can kind of reach out to you, or if anybody's got more questions and stuff. But yeah, we'll have some, like I said, we'll have some information in the description for the video and stuff too. So
awesome. I definitely appreciate that.
Kind of getting to a point where we're going to be wrapping up a little bit, but we got a couple more things to talk about. We always send a group up on motorcycles, right?
Yes.
Also to that camp.
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about kind of how that came about or where it's at now?
Yeah. So we usually have a group of it's anywhere from 5 to 10. We've had a couple 5 or 10 members of the department that have motorcycles that have rode up. And then sometimes we've had like Sioux Falls and a couple other smaller departments that met up with them and actually rode over. It's always a big deal for our kids because in camp you don't hear motorcycles running through camp. So as soon as they're coming, those kids immediately are queued up that they know the firefighters are showing up. Yeah. So it's a big deal to them.
Right on.
So it's like right when they call in, the kids, usually we catch them during lunch. So that's actually probably a good thing because otherwise I have a feeling they'd all be running to the road right away.
Sure.
But yeah, they've been coming up now for, I want to say it's maybe 6 or 7 years that they've been riding up. That's actually where Fur ended up first getting exposed to Miracle Burn Camp. He rode up with the guys and saw that, and then he kind of pulled me off to the side, and he's like, "Hey, man, let's figure out something I can do to help," and that's kind of where that relationship with him and I began. And again, thankful for that relationship because we'd never be where we're at today without that. So.
Awesome. And you guys are going to do something a little bit new this year then too, right? With instead of the motorcycles, you got something else going on?
Oh, that's in addition to. So yeah, we're actually it's another thing that he's kind of come up with. We're going to do a side-by-side poker run. So that's going to start I think in Hinton, and then it's going to go to Brunsville, I think, then Lamar's, then Remsen, and then Kingsley, and then back to Hinton. So that's going to be on June 24th. So we're kind of excited about that. It'll be something a little bit different. Our goal on that one, we're going to try to raise enough money on that fundraiser to buy a wheelchair accessible side-by-side. So that way we're able to, we figured side-by-side.
Awesome.
We figured side-by-side poker run. What better than to try to raise a side-by-side so maybe we can move these kids around that are in wheelchairs a little bit easier and faster, because right now we're doing a lot of lifting and transitioning back and forth, and sometimes that can be a little difficult for either them or us. So yeah, if we're able to move them around a little bit easier.
Not to mention the fun.
Exactly.
Kids could just send it now, right?
Yeah, they always
Derek, send it.
Yeah, the other kids are always like, "Can I ride on?" Nope, this is their ride, not your ride. So,
perfect.
So yeah, we kind of figured that'd be a kind of a fun little fundraiser to try to raise enough for us to cover that side by side. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Man, I've already talked way more than I ever.
I am honestly. Talking. You're doing a great job. You've done it's been awesome.
I think for a guy, I know how uncomfortable Tro gets doing any of this kind of stuff or talking at all. He hides it really good. But dude doesn't he's not a social media guy. He's not a YouTube guy. He's not any of this. For him to do as much, and this was I'm proud of you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the foundation.
There you go. Well, and you know what? I think the success of this organization, it's a reflection on you, your leadership, your passion that you put into this. It's so contagious, and I'm proud of you, man. Keep up the great work.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's nice to be where we are at today, knowing where we came from yesterday. Yeah. We're so blessed to be in our position right now, and right now we're just kind of going with it. We're in a good place, and
absolutely,
hopefully we're blessed enough that we can keep this moving forward like this, and maybe 3-4 years from now we'll be able to say we hit that $2 million endowment.
And it's nice knowing you have a wonderful community that supports this too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it without all of them. I mean, we've got a lot of really passionate people. A lot of our donors have came up to camp and seen what that entails, and then obviously then they're even more supportive when they find out what we're doing and what we're able to get accomplished up there, and to show them the kids enjoying themselves and playing and doing what they do. So yeah, again, I can't say anything other than I'm thankful for everybody that's around us right now, everybody that supports us, because we wouldn't be able to be where we're at today if we didn't have that support.
Well, for a place that's steeped in tradition, you're doing a great job carrying on that torch, brother.
You are.
We appreciate that.
Yeah,
you embody what SCFR is and what St. Florian is, and how we should all, uphold the oath and stuff. So we appreciate that and loved having you today.
Thanks, brother.
It was a good
fun.
time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Like I
everyone
said,
for
all that
listening.
Information. Do we have time for, because we missed last month for a
We doing a fill us in
fill-us
update?
in? Yep, we're gonna do a fill us in. Yeah, but no, the information for St. Florian, again, we're gonna post that in the description and stuff. So anybody's looking for more information, looking to donate, that's gonna be in the description. But yeah, we missed it last month because we had a good discussion with
right.
Paul and peer support and everything. So, but no, we had some big things actually the last few months. Really, if you look at within the department, about a year ago, we were kind of dealing with the fallout from you guys. You guys tried to burn up our engine about a year ago.
That never will leave me.
Yeah, well, and actually, you were there that day, weren't you?
I was.
So you can tell us about the,
Didn't know if we were going to brush over this or not.
A little bit of a panic.
Yeah,
when you run downstairs and the apparatus bay is full of smoke where you can't even see the engine, that's a bad day.
It's a really bad day.
We're running to the engine,
Thought
not
process.
realizing the engine was what was on fire, running to the engine to grab SCBAs to figure out where the heck the fire was at.
You're like, whose turn was it to cook?
Right.
Wait a minute. No, that's not
Well, we
it.
just put a battery tender, I think, on one of the ambulances. So our
Oh,
first thought was
sure.
it was the ambulance, the battery tender must have started on fire. And then, yeah, we got all the doors opened up and finally got some
Then you
of that
got some
smoke
good
cleared
oxygen
out.
to
And
it,
it was
and then
like,
it started really going.
oh no, oh no, that's a problem.
That was a problem. Yeah, that was a rough few months in the reserve rig until we got our engine back and stuff. That's if anybody can relate. Anytime you go into the reserve rig for like a day, you're like, this is awful, because that rig, that's your home, that's your baby, that's your thing, and when you take that away, we kind of get kind of pouty faces
Again,
and stuff, and
Firefighters hate change.
yeah, yeah,
and hate the way things are.
yeah,
So
that was a few rough months in the reserve rig when and that'll be something you guys will never hear the end about and stuff. So we did, but that was about a year ago. Station 8's coming along, the remodel on that. I think everything's all kind of sheetrocked on the inside. They're getting to the point where they're ready to break through into the existing station and finish that up. So that's going along pretty good. Our training tower, it's coming. The outside work you don't see much happening right now because of the winter months, but behind the scenes with the Connex boxes and the interior stuff that's going on. We had an Officer 1 class happen, which is fantastic. That just shows the amount of training and certification levels and things like that we're doing for our people between the fire safety officer, Officer 1 class. We had a Instructor 1 class go through. I mean, we've constantly increasing the professionalism of our people. Fire Service Training Bureau was here for the SCBA Confidence. Everybody got to go through this. That's a great partnership for us to be able to get different training props, different training again. Just a testament to how professional our department is and how much stuff. Our CAS accreditation for the ambulance, that was finalized in official. So that makes up between our the accreditation for the fire division, the accreditation on the EMS division. Those are huge things for us to have. We had a chili cook-off, first ever interstation chili cook-off award, and I believe it was Joe and was it Joe and John that won that, the guys downtown?
Yep.
Headquarters, it was
Rigged.
Yeah.
Rigged.
I think so. You might have to look at that for the next year.
Their chili was pretty good.
It was.
It was pretty hard to beat.
We had the hiring list. Of course, our new hiring list got finalized and stuff, so that's up. We got a bunch of good candidates on there. A big thing, and we do have, because coming up, I believe next month is Iowa Donor Awareness Month, IDN. So Sioux City has been for years now. We've been the #1 referral department in the whole state of Iowa as far as our out-of-hospital referrals, and between the out-of-hospital and in-hospital referrals for IDN, so Iowa Donor Network. And we talk about the reach from that, and that we'll never know is how much tissues, organs, all that stuff gets donated from every referral. But we're looking at, I think the numbers I have for last year maybe is about 24 tissues and field accepted between tissues and the hospitals and stuff, out of hospital and in hospital, that got out. And again, from every person, every donation, that person is capable of donating so many things, and the outreach and stuff that goes is really incredible what Sioux City does. So that, of course, promotions. Not that I'm gonna toot, but
but toot.
Yeah, but so Jim Gerard got his first red hat, got promoted lieutenant, and I was able to add a bugle to my
Congratulations,
collar, so
both of you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's always an exciting phone call. Besides the initial hire phone call, the promotional phone call.
Yeah, never forget
a
them.
really exciting one. Yeah, that's something you don't forget. And then Simbus. Parked outside now. That is a really awesome thing. So Simulation in Motion, Iowa. It's been a huge project of the University of Iowa, the School of Nursing, with the Halsey grant, has put together this mobile training bus. The Cedar Rapids one, that end of the state has been operating in the eastern part of the state for about 6 months, and now we just officially launched the Sioux City bus. Myself and Brent James, as far as from the department, are both part-time sim instructors and stuff, going to be doing that. Kevin Hankey is also another one from people would recognize from around here. But yeah, it's going to be huge. It's the half of it is made up to look exactly like the back of an ambulance, fully functioning, and the other half is an emergency room complete with, we're talking like you can run traumas, medication stuff. These mannequins, which we not only does the Simbus have 4 mannequins, but Sioux City we also got some of our own mannequins and stuff. That these things. To say that they're state of the art is almost an understatement. Yeah. These mannequins and the controls they could do absolutely everything short of hold like an actual conversation with you. Which
I'm okay with.
Yeah,
I'm not ready for Skynet completely yet,
no,
but they are cool.
But
They're
even though you can
cool.
make him talk, even the infant actually moves. Ouch. It turns blue. It reacts to whatever you do treatment wise. So as real as can possibly be without being real. So this is going to be awesome for Western Iowa and stuff, and rural communities around here, the rural squads that can't get the training that we could get. But even for Sioux City, for us, it's good because anytime the bus isn't on the road, Sioux City Fire, that we're going to be able to utilize and use it. So that's huge as far as running, mega codes or all those weird calls.
Pretty stoked to work on that. To have an interactive mannequin. We've all done the mannequin thing for a long time now, or like having someone act. It's like, my arm's broken. No, this thing literally can have bones popping out of its arm.
Tells you, and depending on what you do, like even the guy running the sim on the computer doesn't have to say, okay, and now it does this. You do something to that mannequin in the computer, it already knows.
Yeah.
So we're talking changing heart rates, pupils, absolutely everything. These things are beyond state of the art. They're incredible. So that, and then one last thing is a cool thing that we got, and you can kind of see. You see the shot, a little bit.
Showcasing
on the
new
back,
shirts, baby.
Showcasing the department. We were able to do station logos and stuff, so that got approved now for our weekend and off-duty wear. So each station kind of designed their own logo and stuff, so it's kind of cool that each station kind of have their own identity and their own logo for a shirt to kind of give some more, again, the pride that firefighters have anyways, but now to really give that pride to yourselves in each station, and people can take ownership of the time and effort they put into designing a logo and stuff, and be like, that's our station, that's our thing, that's kind of a cool
Hopefully
thing. So
around for far beyond our years. So.
Yeah.
I want to give one more shout out. We're doing tomorrow's St. Patty's Day, baby. Everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day. Weather's a little not as fair as we'd hoped, but we have a little float that's going to be showcased on behalf of the union. Myself and some people are working on it. Tro's going to help. You guys didn't know until now, but you're going to help after this to help get this float slapped together down in the bay in the TC here. So if you're around and you're able to be upright and standing tomorrow around 6 p.m., there is the St. Patty's Day parade. Engine 3 is going to be in it.
Yeah, Mighty Engine 3 will be in the parade.
Hopefully we're behind them. I don't want the bank shots from the air horn.
There might be a little bit of air horn action.
There will be children on the float. So
we'll tone it down just a little bit.
So look for that one. But other than that, guys, I think it was a great episode.
Yep.
Thanks for everyone for listening. We'll catch you next month.
We gotta drop them. Drop the tunes.
Drop them, baby.
Shout out to Moorhead.
Let's go.
today, buddy.
Man, it's cold out today.
It is cold.
Man.
It is cold.
Man.
Don't pee.
Whoa. 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 Whoa! Whoa! Oh my! What was that? Jeez. Go. Hold on. Hold on. Is that smoke? Yeah, looks like smoke over there.
You want to go over there?
Yeah, you want to check it out?
Yeah.
Call it in.
Call it in.
Sweet, man. Hey, thanks for the ride, dude.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
All right, see ya.
I'll see you
Same
tomorrow.
time in the morning?
Yeah, see you
All
in the
right.
morning.
Have a good day.
Yeah, see you, brother.
You bet.